In a previous video, I discussed one of the earliest forms of eugenics, proposed by the Greek philosopher Plato. If that interests you, please click on the link, which is also included in the description. When people think about eugenics, they usually think about the Holocaust, perpetuated at the hands of the National Socialist regime during World War II. Nowadays, the bitter taste left in people's mouth means that eugenics is often talked about as some kind of dirty trick or a cheat code that somehow sacrifices morality for notions of progress. Modern dialogue surrounding eugenics falls into two camps: moral philosophy and occasionally proposing vague benefits to humanity. The former is a horse that has already been sent out to pasture by other YouTubers who've done an excellent job. A link to one of my favorite videos discussing the moral philosophy surrounding eugenics is included below. I strongly recommend it if you are interested in discussing the morality surrounding eugenics. Let's quickly cut through some of the vague benefits that we mentioned earlier of eugenics. The first, according to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynocologists, I hope I pronounced that correctly, carrier screening analyzes the genetic code of individuals considering pregnancy from a blood sample or swab from the cheek, in order to determine an approximate likelihood of genetic disorders that may manifest in a child. Recessive traits are genetic traits that require both parents to have them in their genetic code for there to be a chance of expressing them. Carrier screening can also be taken from both the mother and the father to determine if both partners possess a recessive trait correlating with genetic disorders. Through carrier screening, a couple may make an informed decision regarding pregnancy. The second is that the ACOG that we mentioned also explains that carrier screenings may be used during pregnancy in order to help families be aware of what they can expect once the child or children are born. This is important in order to help families prepare for their new child. Cerebral palsy is a disease that often manifests before birth and delays, damages, and harms the development of the brain, often affecting a child's motor abilities, including walking, speech, can be painful, and may last the duration of the child's life. The Toronto Research Hospital has estimated that in 10% of cerebral palsy cases, there is usually some evidence that can be found in the genetic sequence of the fetus. If we get better at detecting this sequence in fetuses, and this sequence is found, the parents may begin to prepare to make accommodations to ensure their child is able to be born into the loving, welcoming home it deserves. The parents may begin looking into resources such as private tutors or arrangements for education, government assistance programs such as child health insurance programs, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act, or Social Security disability income, as well as thinking about how they can outfit their home to better accommodate their child. Carrier screening will allow these families a chance to prepare. For most of history, diabetes meant a painful death, so we get to our third point. Through natural selection, as well as the fact that our modern diet is a modern phenomenon, diabetes was kept in check. People didn't have fast food back in the day. According to Medline Plus, a government health information website, Type 2 diabetes does not have a clear hereditary pattern, but seems to correlate strongly with the number of relatives with type 2 diabetes a person has. Type 1 diabetes is inheritable. Since people today are living full, rich lives with diabetes and are in fact reproducing, it may well be that over the vast course of time, all humans may one day be biologically dependent upon artificial insulin. I believe this to be so because most mammals are capable of synthesizing their own vitamin C. Primates, including humans, depend on external sources of vitamin C, such as fruits. However, diabetes.org explains that inheriting diabetes is actually a combination of innumerable factors, of which inheritance is only a small part of. Lifestyle choices such as diet, sleep, and exercise often play a larger role in the development of diabetes than genetics alone. The ability to detect the propensity towards diabetes will encourage people to assert self-care and healthful activities in their lives. This attitude will in turn allow other people to equally take care of their health. Ultimately, all of society will benefit from happier, healthier people by being able to detect diabetes and encouraging preventative medicine and self-care. Also, interestingly, diabetes can even be triggered by certain viruses. Just a fun fact. Now to our fourth point. Of course, many proponents of eugenics often drift towards encouraging people with genetic illness to abstain from reproduction. This ethical violation, however, can be sidestepped by merely informing people of their own genetic makeup and allowing them to make appropriate decisions in their life. Especially large decisions, such as planning for retirement, having children, buying property, starting businesses, finding appropriate employment, preparing for a career, and just generally planning out their goals and ambitions. An informed population will inevitably lead to better, more wholesome lives, if only by living more deliberately and with a purpose. The video I've attached in the description discusses the interesting debate as to whether employees should have access to employees' genetic makeup for purposes of hiring employees who are genetically suited for their positions. It really is a marvelous discussion. The Machiavellian ideas about building an Übermensch or super race of perfect people is a fear that is discussed elsewhere, and I don't think Machiavelli used the term Übermensch. I'm sure you've heard about forced sterilizations and other atrocities. Eugenics can be applied conservatively to encourage people to make informed decisions of their own whole volition that will benefit them and society innumerably. This informed choice is crucial and critical to protecting the dignity of those affected by various illnesses. The application of clustered, regularly interspaced short palindromic sequences, quite a mouthful, which is known as CRISPR, may, if researched, further yield marvelous changes in the future of mankind. If, for example, faulty genes are detected, birth selection can be supplanted entirely by simply editing the responsible genes to ensure the person will not be afflicted. Of course, it is much more complicated than that to determine those genes. Here is a picture of some Escherichia coli that my class and I modified using a simple little kit from a website called Odin. It is literally a little CRISPR kit. We made this Escherichia coli glow using jellyfish plasmids. It really is that easy. You literally can just do it at home. Identifying the responsible sequences is probably the difficult part, and that is where the research needs to be done. Being able to correct gene sequences manually gets rid of the nightmare I was mentioning earlier, in which all of humanity could be dependent upon synthesized insulin in the future, very far into the future. Hopefully we will be much better at possibly modifying our genome with CRISPR. Maybe. And now we go to point 6. In fact, we actually have already modified E. coli and something called, I'm unsure of the pronunciation, Saccharomyces cerevisiae, which is a species of yeast used historically in baking and wine production to produce insulin for diabetes. This is already a normal application of eugenics at work. If we can genetically modify yeast cells to produce insulin, maybe we can modify humans to simply produce their own insulin and correct diabetes in of itself, avoiding any of that nasty natural selection and Darwinism. We could perhaps in fact transcend biology. And of course, this goes without saying, we have been using natural selection to breed cows and cattle and all kinds of farm animals and pets and dogs and fish for our own purposes for a long time. So eugenics has benefits to humanity even when applied to things that are not related directly to humanity, such as animals. If we just change the way we think about eugenics, we can see that there are many legitimate and valid applications of eugenics that we already routinely use to better our lives. I'd love to know what you think about my suggestions or anything I've said. I appreciate any and all criticisms. Please do your worst, so far as I am concerned, but please do be kind to each other. If you liked my video, don't be afraid to like my video and subscribe so that I can know that anyone liked my video. Or, you can show this to one of your single friends if she is looking for a marriageable bachelor to take over the world with. Be blessed, have a nice day. Thank you for watching.